On this episode of Nisha Unfiltered, I speak with Kimberly Dawkins about being molested at age 8 by her preacher.
You know, he would call me into his house, take me into his room, and he would expose his penis, and he would start to jerk off. And
wow. Hi love, it's Nisha and this is Nisha Unfiltered. Today we are having a candid and necessary conversation about sexual abuse. A taboo topic, yes, but an epidemic that affects millions of people around the world. Now, I wanted to have this show today because I need victims to know that you are not alone. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before they even turn 18. That's what reports from the National Sexual Violence Resource Center says. Very alarming. I couldn't imagine that the numbers were so high. Imagine for boys, 1 in 6. There is such a veil of silence around this issue. It means that we are interacting with men all of the time who may have been molested. It's just not spoken about. Also revealing is that 1 out of 8 will be sexually assaulted by someone familiar. Well, my guest today, Kimberly Dawkins, says her preacher, the preacher in her church, who was also her next door neighbor, inappropriately fondled her and forced her to watch him perform sexual acts. That conversation is soon, but first let's speak about the latest crime shocking the nation. 36-year-old Tamara was shot dead in front of her 10-year-old daughter after refusing to have sex with a man who broke into her apartment in Chevaughn, Jamaica. My heart breaks for this little girl whose mother was murdered right in front of her because she exercised her right to say no to sex. Now, most of us hear of these incidents, right? And we're sad and we're repulsed. But there's an underground rape culture that seeks to normalize these sexual crimes. I am baffled to hear some of the thoughts. Example, this person online who says, females should take rape as a compliment. A guy thinks you're so beautiful, he is willing to risk prison to have you. That means a lot and you should be thankful. Think about that the next time before you report someone for something that isn't even a big deal. End of quote. Isn't even a big deal. Complimentary. Like, wow. I quiver at the notion that rape could ever be complimentary. And most of you will agree with me. Rape culture is serious and these ideologies have real impact. My guest, Kimberly Dawkins, is a testimony of that. She's up next. But first, let's hear the view of a university student on rape culture.
Rape is not a compliment, and as far as I'm concerned, statements like this only serve to reaffirm and perpetuate a culture of rape within our society. Why should a little boy, girl, woman, or man accept their predators' forceful violation and illegal trespassing of their body as a compliment or no big deal?
Well said. My guest today, Kimberly Dawkins, was only 8 years old when her abuse began. Thank you so much for joining me, Kimberly. Kimmy. Yeah, you're super brave and really open about your experience with sexual abuse as a very young girl. What were the circumstances surrounding your violation?
Well, you know, the home that I grew up in, I believe that environment sort of predisposed me to that incident. I grew up in a house with just like 2 rooms, outside bathroom, outside kitchen. And the property that we lived on, the yard, it had 2 houses. And the person who violated me, he lived with his family in the other house. So I believe that it's that, you know, environment that sort of led to what had happened.
Yeah. So it was proximity, and you pinpointed the beginning of his inappropriate acts with you at around age 8.
Yes.
Yeah. What did he do to you?
Well, alright, so I use age 8 because at the time I had done a surgery, but it had actually started before that.
Wow.
So it was going on in my what I can remember long before I did that surgery, and it continued after that.
Okay.
But what he would do is, you know, he would call me into his house, take me into his room, and he would expose his penis, and he would start to jerk off. And
Wow.
yeah, and then, you know, there were times when he would probably fondle my vagina, and this would just happen until, as a child, I'm just seeing white stuff coming from his penis.
Wow.
But now, as a registered nurse, I understand that he was ejaculating. He was satisfied and finished.
Wow.
So that was most of it. There were even, you know, times when we would go to the beach as like a family, because like on Sundays, almost every Sunday we would go to Helsha Beach, like my family and his family.
Yeah.
And if we're in the water together, you know, so as adults you would like hold kids up in the water because they're not tall enough to swim or whatever. So he would always want to be lifting me up in the water. And there were times when I actually feel him touching me on my private area. And I would like be trying to get away, but I couldn't like jump from his arms because I wasn't tall enough to stand in the sea.
Yeah.
And you know,
that is terrifying.
yes. And
I'm listening to you and I feel so afraid for other girls who are going
yes.
to grow up and go through similar experiences.
Yes, because even for me, I have nieces, you know, around that age group, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, how could someone possibly do this to a child?
Yeah.
But you know, unfortunately it happened. But for me, I just, you know, I want to just use my experience or my story to show other young women that, you know, this is not okay, and they should speak out about it. They need to speak up about it, because these men who violate you, and it's even not just with young girls, but women do it to boys, or men
do it to boys.
Yes, or men do it to boys as well. And these things just need to stop. And with the stigma in our society, especially like for the men, like they are afraid to speak up because they would be ashamed. But yeah, these things, it's time for all this to end.
Finish. I agree. You're at the point now where you're seeking legal action. At the time, he was a pastor.
See, he was a preacher in the church. And he, the story with that now is, so when I was 16, he exposed himself to me in a way where I was just very frightened and afraid. So I found the confidence to speak to someone in the church that I looked up to at the time. And then like the church committee had a meeting with him, and when I was telling them everything that happened, of course he denied it and said nothing that wasn't the truth. So at that time, my mom, she had tried to like, you know, bring it out and to like report it, but nothing really came out of it at that time. So now I'm actively trying to seek legal advice onto the steps that I need to take to see what can happen. And
what happened to his position in the church?
He's still there, still at the same, still going to the same church as if nothing happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that you're able to create the change that you want to see in this sphere, because it's such an important topic and it's such a sad circumstance. And I love what you're doing to like add to this conversation and shed light on it.
Yes, I believe I it's just like in my spirit, I just want young women to understand their rights as an individual. Because, you know, these things happen and our rights or innocence are infringed upon by these people. And they should be punished for what they're doing.
Absolutely.
They should be.
Thank you, Kimmy.
Thank you, Nisha, for having me.
Kimberly is so courageous. You know, it is critical that we continue to lift the silence surrounding this pivotal issue. We cannot tolerate sexual abuse in our communities. Be sure that you do your part, add to the conversation, share this video around, and let victims of abuse know that they are not alone. Comment your thoughts below and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Hi, thanks again for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification button so you can see every time I post a new video.